Hello and welcome to Sensei Podcast. This is Manos Brilakis discussing with leaders in the field of CTO and complex PCI. Sensei means teacher or master in Japanese. The goal of the Sensei Podcast is to help you learn and improve in CTO and complex PCI so that you can become the best that you can be and offer your patients the best possible results. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sensei Podcast. It is my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Amir Masoumi from Columbia University Medical Center, where he does a lot of work on the high-risk PCI, as well as directing the interventional treatment for cardiogenic shock. And also, he leads the teams at Morristown Medical Center. Great operator, great friend. Amir, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you, Manos, for having me. And I know everyone says this, but it's a true honor to be on your podcast, talking to you and your audience. Also, for full disclosure, I'm not at the sensei level by any means. Maybe senpai, but maybe not a sensei.
Well, this is what the true senseis say, so this is perfect. But Amir, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into intervention? And you have a unique aspect of the heart failure component as well, which not many people have. But tell us a little bit, how did this happen, and what were the steps so far?
Sure. So before all of this cardiology, I really wanted to be a nephrologist. I was heavily attracted to physiology during the med school, but now looking back, and some of my friends from med school, they remind me that I had this passion about procedures and intense, clinical scenarios and patient care. And this is true. When I reflect, I had that attraction too. So I wanted to do nephrology with understanding of homeostasis and more so cardiorenal pathways. I was fortunate that Dr. Bob Schreier in Denver, unfortunately he passed away, and he's one of the legends, at the same class of Dr. Braunwald. They were friends actually and the same peer. So he accepted me for a postdoc, and I went to Denver and I did 4 years up there with him. In his lab and also some clinical aspect. But he always used to say that I started talking to cardiologists more often these days when I was there rather than the nephrologists. And I know you have this passion and emphasis on mentors and mentee and mentorship. And he was truly a giant, but beyond medicine as a human being, and he was invested in all his trainees and recruits. So I did a lot of work on polycystic kidney disease with him, but at the same time got attracted to renin-angiotensin aldosterone axis, which was his passion. And one of the areas that he developed, vasopressins, and also he had a textbook on vasopressin only. So, following him, and he was so charismatic.
And I'm sorry, this was after medicine, after medical school. When did you do the research with him?
After medical school, 4 years dedicated. Initially, it was 2 years, and he said, "You're going to stay a little longer." I said, "Absolutely." I was. And he was he was an athlete, Hall of Famer for Hoosiers, and so we had a lot in common in terms of, and he was he was an author, he was a historian also, and attracted me a lot, and he supported me. So I tried to absorb as much as possible during those years. But then I started residency. At the same time with the cardiorenal access, with the cardiology department at Denver, University of Colorado, and then some collaboration with Dr. Braunwald. I started understanding more about edema and how to manage edema and cardiorenal and heart failure. So that's how, started tickling a little bit about heart failure and cardiac world. Then I started my residency at Emory, and it was like a second year. Those days, the application was, I think it was in January, and you were matched at the same year. It was not a year. And I was in CCU, and Dr. Javed Butler, who was a heart failure at that point, attending, he was rounding in our CCU at Emory, and there were like two levels. He was upstairs and he saw a paper that me and Dr. Schreier wrote about edema and how similarities between cirrhosis and heart failure. And one of one of the junior attendings said, "Oh, the one of the this kid is downstairs, by the way." Said, "Oh, who wrote this?" He asked me to come, but also I started to go to his office, and he started talking about the collaborations and the interaction between, because that was one of his areas of focus, collaboration between the kidney and the heart. But then I started having, when I was in CCU, started having this um, you know itch that this environment, the critical environment and the cardiac environment, is really what my passion is going to be. And uh, and uh, but and I said, maybe I should do cardiology. One of the people that I should always give him credit, Dr. Danny Sims, who's actually at the moment at Montefiore, but he trained at Columbia, and he was at Emory. He was an attending, and he became a mentor to me as well. He said, definitely you should do it, and definitely you should do it at Columbia, because the intensity of the shock and the CCU's collaboration between the surgical teams, and also they have a dedicated nephrocard service. But do it from the cardiac line. No. So as you can imagine, the next dilemma for me: how can I break it to Doc Schreier? A man of few words, a giant, and I was like sweating. What should I do or not? So I called him up, and he was at NIH, I think for one of the meetings. And he said, "I'm in DC." I said, "Do you mind if I bother you?" So I flew to DC. I sat in his daughter's living room, and he said, "What happened? That you want to talk to me?" I said, Dr. Schreier, this is it, and I want to do, and this is like November, for example. I want to do cardiology. You know, he paused for a second and he said, "I believe that it suits you, and I think you will be very successful. Who do you want me to write the letters for?" The two. And that's, again, it's a testament to the caliber of the man and how he was. So I, flew back, talked to Dr. Sims, Danny Sims, and say, "Hey, this is the situation." So as you can imagine, scrambling all. Luckily, my story was lining up. All my papers started becoming more with cardiac department, with cardiologists and heart failure. So I went to Columbia, and I initially wanted to do heart failure. So I was dedicated in that, and then the Columbia environment, you're familiar with. It's very heavy in shock and surgical interventions, of course, with a very strong cath lab, with all the stars that uh, they've been on your podcast. And so I was like, focused on heart failure, started working on cardiorenal syndrome and nephrocard with our nephrology colleagues there. And as I was coming up and saying this, this intensity, this sick patients, they are really, where I see my calling. And that makes me feel fulfilled, and I think that's where I can be more productive. So the idea was initially to do heart failure, and I kept my word, and I did the full year of heart failure transplant, which I think it's instrumental, and we can talk about it. Why special that a lot of uh, I think age, there is this thing, age, it's coming up, and now I see younger generations. They want to say, oh, we want to do the same path we can talk about it. Why I think it's important to do that. But then, and then was more involved with shock. And then in 2014, Dimitri came up from Atlanta, Dimitri Karmpaliotis, and he came up, and we met, and it clicked. I was a very young fellow. I was like a second year fellow, had no idea about interventions. My head was like in physiology, cardiorenal access. But I was, good with my hands, but not anything at the level of like the cath lab. You can imagine. I was good in the CCU. I was good with lines and etc. And it happened at the weekend that he was on, and one of the patients, slipped into profound shock. And by the time he was coming, I kind of managed the patient, put the patient in the procedure room, which is a separate funny story, one of the many funny stories, remarkable stories of Dimitri. He walked in, and we put the balloon pump, saved the case, etc. And then, being Dimitri, how he was, I said, because he was attending that day. It was a Sunday. He was not in the mood. He saw me during the week and said, "What are you gonna do when you grow up?" I said, "I want to do heart failure." And actually, one of our heart failure attendings was next to me. I said, "Wrong, wrong," and left. Typical Dimitri, and left. So we continued, and this passion started growing. At the same time, I always was fascinated by the trajectory and the work of Dr. Naveen Kapoor, which you're familiar with, and in the area of cardiogenic shock. But it was like a 10-year gap. Things really changed in that 10 years. A lot of it thanks to him and his work, but also the modalities. But then the same time, our cath lab was very different at Columbia. IJ was there, Dr. Leon, that always had an idea about interventional heart failure, and he was like trying and it's still, he has this famous talk. He talks about cardiorenal heart failure, interventional heart failure, and he's a visionary man. I don't need to say anything about it, but and he sees the future, and he keeps talking about it. So I went to him and talked to him, of course. And then with Ajay and Dimitri, they were like trying to form this track, that because no one ever done it at Columbia, how to do this. My initial thought was like, oh, okay, I would do 1 year of heart failure. That's okay. I can convince my family that it's okay. 1 more year of training. But then Ajay was saying, if you want to only do like pumps or access, it may not, and you need to have more of a comprehensive approach. Which actually, I'm thankful to him, um, or maybe I should, and then it became more of a problem, because then with more interactions with coronaries and complex cores, and Dimitri and his skills in the cath lab, and what a progressive cath lab was, that environment was for me as a fellow. I became more attached to that complex coronary interventions, CTOs, et cetera, but always had a hand in shock. And even as like a upcoming fellow, I was very, very involved with that. And I should say that these were all the events, when I think about it, and this that throughout my journey, how it happened. So I did, after that, a full year of interventional cardiology, and then I started as junior faculty. But just anything else, I don't think with 1 year I had enough experience. So I continued to work under Dimitri, Ajay, Dr. Moses in the cath lab. But Dimitri really took me under his wings and pushed me, especially with the complex and CTO aspect of it, and it was like a long apprenticeship, but I'm forever grateful for that.
Wonderful. Well, and again, it's clearly a lot of serendipity in a way. Things you started for nephrology, went into cardiology, heart failure, the intervention. You clearly were following your passion and discovering the passion as you went through. Um, was it? I mean, obviously, there's too many years of training, right? Was that a concern for you going through all these years of training?
Uh, I don't. I really. I can't say that. I understand life gets busy. Our first child was born, and I always saw that the need to be independent and coming out of fellowship, etc. But now I look back, I feel that those were essential in my journey and in my growth. So I don't regret that. However, I cannot deny the role and support of my wife and my family. I'm coming from a completely non-medical family. No one is in medicine. No one understands the medical business, amount of training, and etc. My wife also, but she has that understanding and agency, and really supported me all through. And still, I still like act like a fellow and work like a fellow, but I don't regret that. I feel they were essential, and it gave me a better perspective of understanding the spectrum of special sick patients, so I can serve them better.
Wonderful. And again, obviously, you worked in amazing teams, amazing mentors. Um, from going this transition and learning the interventional stuff specifically, what did you find was the hardest part? What was the most difficult thing to learn and improve upon?
So there's some aspect of their technical aspects and their personal aspects. That's how I saw that. Um, for me, the technical aspects are always intriguing, and better. Like um, there is no shortcut in that. That the name of your podcast is Sensei, and there's this story of the student goes to this samurai and wanted to really be one of the senseis and masters, and goes to the master and tells him that how long does it take that I become a master in swords and craft, and he says 10 years, and he says, what if I really push it? The master says 30 years. So the technical aspect, understanding the coordination, that's one aspect. Decision, which I put it in the category of technical decision making, where to stop, where don't stop, when to intervene and push. Those are the things that uh, you know I don't have a timeline on that. It starts coming together. Of course, I was extremely fortunate because I was, you know, shoulder by shoulder next to Dimitri, and he always had that, oversight and help. At the personal level, was that independency to make decisions, both on the shock patients, because special with shock, because they're rather uncharted territories and you don't know the results. Often these are innovative approaches. You have to make a decision, either, you know, uh, what device to use, escalation, de escalation, what the outcome of the patient is going to be. So, those challenges, I still see myself a student, but I found it very difficult. Not to mention there is element of responsibility. Um, you know, um, there is a life, there is a family in front of you, and you don't have much evidence, right? You don't know which device may work. You don't know the outcome. Some of the stuff in medicine, at least I can back it up with evidence. but a lot of that is based on the experience, and more so based on who you've been surrounded with, the experts and smarter people from all the disciplines around, like from the surgical discipline, from heart failure, advanced heart failure, from interventional, from medical. So that I feel that it's always evolving, and that transition could be difficult. And of course, when you do cases on your own, or you have now the fellows coming to stand next to you, that's something that I found, and still sometimes, where and how I should intervene, when I should take over, when I should let them try again. So those are some of the, I can't say obstacles, but there are some of the challenges that I constantly have, because I put myself in the shoes of the fellows and say, "Oh, I really wanted to do that, and then they took it away from me." How I can balance that, I'm still learning, and I'm trying to do my best.
Wonderful. And then when it comes to the cases that you do, obviously the heart failure, the shock, as you said, the outcomes are often not very good, not because of what you do, but just because of the nature of the disease. How do you deal with this situation where things, you do your best, but things don't go well, or vice versa? You think maybe you could have done something different. How much does this affect you? How do you get through these tough moments?
So um, the I think the key is honesty and transparency with the patients and the families. And I say that in both categories. In shock, of course, the patients often are intubated and they're not able to have a communication. So I try to be as honest as possible with the families. And believe it or not, the sense of humanity, and if you're genuine, everyone gets it. I'm not saying that I never had tough encounters, or families or the patients that they may not still, they're still in the process, but they're protesting to face the challenge or this drastic change. But in the majority of cases, I feel that they sense that, and they support me and our team. So that's one thing that makes it a little bit easier if I cannot deliver the favorable outcome. That helps me, but nonetheless, the marks are there. And the category of complex and CTO, it's the same thing. I try to be as transparent as possible with the data that exists, just to back up my argument, go over the indications. One of the things that we did, and I continue to do that, is to definitely meet with the patient and families as much as possible, if clinical scenario permits, in clinic or at the bedside, when the things are calm, and situations are more um, um, manageable, to have a very good conversation with them, and then when everyone is on board, to go ahead and proceed. Um, and then when tough stuff happened, then I should say that in the past 3-4 years, I started working on myself a little bit more, and uh, to reflect, to learn, and to move on. But as long as I know that I've been transparent with the patients and the families, and also I did my best. And that doing best doesn't mean necessarily I do the case or I be involved. If I called someone, if I transferred the patient, what I could do in my little power to serve the patient and the family, that will give me some peace.
Wonderful. So clearly, tough decisions, tough things to do. And also, what you're combining is something very unique. I personally am not aware of anyone else who is combining heart failure into the level that you're doing it, as well as complex CTO, which also has some unique advantages because you understand two processes that often interact with each other.
Sure.
How difficult has it been to actually work on that line? Some people say even that it's not compatible to have such a strong, another field, heart failure, who has a lot of other nuances and also do complex interventions, but clearly you're managing it in a great way. How tough has it been? And do you recommend to other people to follow the same pathway?
Sure. So, again, I go back to Dimitri. He used to tell me that, whenever we were in a case and we were doing something, he used to say, uh, give me the answer as a heart failure guy, not an interventionalist. So he was saying, think like a heart failure, give me the answer like that, and make a decision and intervene like an interventionalist. I think if you have those in front of in your toolbox, uh, you will have more options to help the patients. In terms of the heart failure, I should say the transplant, because you cannot do everything. This is that you have to be focused. I know you passionately talked about this and the element of discipline and focus in certain areas, and that's something that at Columbia has been a great emphasis on that as well. I understand transplant, for example, but I don't really care for transplant patients. I think that by itself, it's becoming so complex and complicated. The management of those in acute setting, I think I'm equipped to manage those patients. But again, not in isolation. I think I can make certain decisions in the middle of the night if a patient comes with a rejection or this or that. However, post transplant, etc., I'm not. LVAD became limited and limited. Initially when I graduated, I had more involvement with LVAD, but it's shrinking because I spend more time. It became more an interventionalist and managing with acute MCS. So essentially, where I live, at the moment is that acute setting that to identify some of these patients from the heart failure standpoint, to identify these patients, stabilize them, and move them on quickly to the next level with the help of my colleagues. So that's where I live, how I can stabilize these patients without closing the doors. And that's something that I believe that heart failure will give the interventionalists a good perspective, because a lot of stuff, the journey of these patients never start in the cath lab and doesn't end in the cath lab. All the little things, I think the line that we put in, the A line we put in, or the access that we get, if these little things in the sick patients will start accumulating and it's become taxing, because the patient you may end up in the ICU for 2 weeks, 2 months, or even longer. If you have little complications, or we didn't think about, okay, how we can prevent infection, how we can mobilize the patient, let's not intubate the patient so we can have a conversation with the patient. So these little things will help everyone down the road, and it won't closes the doors for the patients. So that aspect of heart failure, I'm heavily involved. So I understand the language, I understand the requirements, how to move the patient to the next level. If it's recovery, that's the best. But what if not? What if not? Then what are the next advanced therapies, and who can be qualified for that? I believe heart failure really gave me a good understanding, and I continue to be part of that world. And of course, intervention are the interventions, and it's moving, and I'm trying to learn and be better at what I'm doing.
Wonderful. And again, as you said, everyone gets subspecialized, or even within the heart failure spectrum. I mean, there's also, as you say, areas to find the synergy between the intervention and the heart failure aspect.
And one other thing, since I know a lot of people listen to you, especially our trainees and in fellows in training, is that the environment that you're gonna be should have an input and insight into your interest as well, because this is rather unique. So the environment should understand and support you. So when that environment and the leadership or the seniors in that environment are understanding the importance of these two of this collaboration, I think it will be successful rather than you try to prove it. Um, but again, I believe there is demand. I think there is a need for people with different subspecialties to be able to help the institution and the patients. But if the institution is not supportive, then it becomes a story of the fish and the bird that they fall in love. They cannot live in the same place.
There you go. There you go. That's a great point, and especially for something as specialized and high tech, so to speak, like this junction of heart failure and intervention. Absolutely, I guess a big major center is a must with all the capacities and the understanding of the benefits of the collaboration.
Because interventional aspect, I mean, you know, you are one of the senseis. You need to put time. You need to. It's going back to the same concept. You have to do the reps. You have to do the purposeful practice. You need to. Otherwise you become atrophied, and you won't have that exposure. So you will stall. And then if someone is really wanted to be an interventionalist, then I don't think it's very satisfactory.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Amir, tell us a little bit about yourself. How do you balance? It's a tough lifestyle with a lot of responsibilities, and how do you balance this? And how do you stay in good shape and focused?
Sure. So, concept of life balance for me, I think I'm in the school of. I don't know if you're familiar with Alain de Botton. You know, he's a British author, and he talks about life balance. And he says that when you're passionate for something that it's worth fighting, that will unbalances your life. But at the same time, it gives you a balance. So um, I will stop here because I know it's a very hot topic and everyone has a point. But in general, I believe the path that I chose, of course, with the blessing of my family, and I understand that it puts, it's not always pleasant to leave and be on call 24/7, but that gives me a purpose, which I share that with my wife and my family, and they understand that, and that's where I live. I don't recommend it. I don't prescribe it for everyone, but I think if you're passionate for something and you really want to fight for it, that will be your new balance. So, um, and and then the element of service, I should say, like I have young children, and I can't tell you how many times I was sitting at the dinner with them, or I was out with one of them, the older one who's actually at the age, and then I get a call. Something went wrong, even though I wasn't on call, so I went. But my wife really is doing a great job, and I'm very proud of that. That she explained the value of service, and how it's important for us as human beings. And I see, and that helped me a lot. Um, I understand each time I pick up the phone and I say yes, I say no to something else, and often is something at home. But again, that value of service, the value of helping patients and bring them back, another father, another mother or brother or a sister. Now my family and even my older daughter started understanding that. She's not going to do medicine. She made it very clear to me. but I think that's a new balance that we cultivated.
And do you
Yeah.
exercise?
Yes. So so I was a swimmer back in school, undergrad. And then 4 years ago, when I told you that I started my journey, because I could see that the pressure, um, you know, in general, I try to stay calm, grounded, and centered. But then it started coming. Also, at that point, we had a transition with Dimitri. We went to Morristown to build programs, and which we can talk about. And I think I should talk about that's part of his legacy. That it that I was always in a very, in one environment. I grew up in one environment, and then I went out, non-university environment, very, very progressive mentality, and they provided us with amazing resources, and I'm grateful for that. But however, as you can imagine, for a young grad, I was second year out, I started experiencing these, and I started feeling that started accumulating, and I started feeling it. The tough cases, the losses, both in the cath lab, in the ICU, building the program, administrative stuff. So I went back to water, and I started swimming again. Um, we all say we are not competitive, but damn, we are. And I started competing again. My coach, still he's coaching, and I'm grateful. I think I was thinking about my journey. It's just I've been extremely fortunate to have great mentors. I don't know what did I do right, but great mentors. Even my coach, and he understands. He carves out time, even though he's with the team, but he carves out time to be with me. And some days he feels that there is something off up there, and he pushes and he works on performance. But that water is my space, the stillness, the silence, and you keep going back and forth, I think. So I swim. I try to run, but I really don't like it that much. I run for the swim, but I swim. And in general, water is my space.
And how many hours do you sleep every night?
Not very much, and that's one of the areas that I'm actively working on. It. I should admit that. I mean, in general, I don't need many hours. As I'm getting older, I feel it. Like before, I used to be able to carry more. And I know that's how essential it is, but it's one of those areas I'm trying to work on it. Have a sleep hygiene, keep the phone away as much as possible. Use some of the strategies and tricks, but overall, as I told you, when you say yes to stuff, you say no to some of those, and sleep is one of the areas that I'm trying to work on it, but I haven't been very good. Also, I keep a very regimented lifestyle in terms of the discipline and what the hours that I wake up. But then when you work night hours and you're not in bed on time, then but I try to wake up every day at the same time. So um, it's a tough balance, I should tell you, but I'm working on it.
Wonderful. So tell us a little bit about Morristown, and as you said, it was a great program you guys developed. So tell us a little more about it.
So at Morristown, the leadership had this vision that exactly what was missing is a service in between, a rescue and recovery. And they already had the name of it. And when Dimitri was got recruited, he asked me to join him, and we went there to build this program, essentially to have the CCU, the cath lab, of course, with his presence, and cardiogenic shock. So that program, and with the team that we built and the people that shared the same vision and values with us, became very successful, in my opinion. I mean, we have some data also, so it's hard to argue with the success in that point. And I say that with a sense of humility. I hope people that know me, they know that I really try to be humble, and I keep reminding myself. But there is data, there are a lot of success stories, and that program has been very productive. Not because of me, but to a great point to the teams, and also the internal talents. They accepted this. This at the beginning, it was destruction, as you can imagine. But then it became part of the culture, and they had this enthusiasm that I couldn't find anywhere else. And I think about it now, I feel that how grateful I am, and we were, that we could go there, share our vision, and with everyone's help to continue to build those. But I should give credit to Bill Lombardi as well. One of the challenges I was going through, because as I told you, I grew up at Columbia, which I think is, for me, it worked the best. It's standard, everything. I was going through that. Oh, why this is not like this, or why this is not, just like anyone else in their journeys. He told me that if you want to live and if you want to do well, try to substitute judgment with curiosity. Not easy. Um, you know, you see a case, you see something. Then then after practiced that, and it wasn't easy, it took like almost a year or even more. When I started practicing that, then I started gaining the trust, and then started being able to share my vision or my experiences with everyone. And that trust building, I feel, was one of the rewards of my adult life. With all the doctors at Morristown, with the leadership at Morristown, which I'm again grateful for the support that they provided us, and also the support that now I'm at Columbia, continue to have those collaborations, which elevates both and helps the patients the most.
Wonderful. So, Amir, if you had to say the things that you like in terms of books and movie, have a favorite one, a favorite book or a favorite movie?
Sure. So, I'm not very talented. So cinema, even though it's amazing, was not an attraction to me. I watch movies, don't get me wrong, but I'm embarrassed to tell you which ones I like. So I'll stop here.
Nothing to be embarrassed.
But no, I like action movies, but I cannot tell you that it's like, oh, I think about it, etc. And I'm not going to give you the answer of every CTO operators that Godfather or or Narcos. I'm not going to say that, but because I watched them, I admired, but not. But books, I love them. So the books, I should tell you, the ones that they're next to me always. When I was very young, was Rumi, and the Persian philosopher, and his poems, and then Marcus Aurelius, the Meditation. I I cannot tell you how many times I read that book, and I love that. I keep going back to it, and it's amazing. It's, you know 2,000 years ago, still people were the same. He was going through the same challenges that we are going through on daily basis. Different accent, different time, but it's amazing. But he was, to me, uh, his journey it's outstanding. And then in terms of the literature, I think the brothers Karamazov. I love that book. Um, has nothing to do with the character Dmitri. I fell in love with that book when I was even an undergrad, and not, but and that's not my favorite character of the book, also. But I think, uh, I mean, who am I to say? But that book is the epic of the literature. So these are the books that I like. And also, because again, I know that a lot of people, you have a huge audience. I'm going to use this as a platform and encourage everyone to read Mastery by Robert Greene. It's becoming a little bit old or outdated, but these books will never get outdated, because the message, it's all about how to become a master, and how to do the apprenticeship, put the work in, and I think you will get the result. So that's all.
Wonderful. Well, these are great recommendations, and again, a little different, as you say, from what most people say, but extremely valuable books that people can learn and grow with. Um, as you said, you had many good mentors. What are the things that you are most grateful for, both personally and professionally?
Grateful. um Professionally, of course, the opportunities that came along, I was persistent, and then the doors opened up. I'm grateful for all the mentors and the stars that I had in my life, and uh, but at the same time, I tried to do the work as well. I showed up. I knocked at their doors, and I tried to learn as much as possible. So, but again, I can't tell you the luck and or whatever you believe, stars lined up, and I'm extremely grateful for that. At the moment, I'm grateful for my teams. I can, it's not only professional at the moment; they became part of my life and almost like a family. They're team members that I work with them for more than 11 years. When and I see their dedication, I see their growth, I see the you know the vision that we share, and the same principles, and I'm extremely grateful to that. At personal level, I'm grateful to my family, as I told you. Like, if my wife didn't have the same understanding in terms of cherishing service, I don't know if I was able to go through this and still have a family. And and also how she coaches our daughters and tell them that yes, that I may not be available at the moment or this and that, but let's focus on what's in front of us and the moments that we have, and also the work I'm doing to help other people. That's how she frames that, and I hope I never disappoint them. So I'm extremely grateful. I'm grateful for my health, as much as aches and pains are coming, but I'm extremely grateful to that. 'Cause, you know, what's the saying? To say when the health gets jeopardized, you have only one problem. The rest will go away. So I'm grateful for that, and again, um, I feel that the work is becoming part of my personal life as well, and they blend, and I have that deep connection with everyone. It's extremely fulfilling. Not to mention the fellows and the trainees that now the age gap is yawning a little bit, and I see them and they call they because they see that genuinely I try to see it to have the to be interested in them, in their goals, in their growth, and I think everyone can resonate with that.
Wonderful. If you had to give some advice to young people who are starting or early career about how to get successful, what would you recommend to them?
So when we talk about success, again, I'm not, it reminds me of Roosevelt. He said that there are two categories of success or people, successful people. One, you have this unparalleled talent that no one even can, even without a try, you have it, and no one can even come around that. I don't know, like Dickens or Tolstoy or stars in interventional realm. I'm not going to name, but you know them better. So it's one that category. But the next of it is for ordinary people when they take that talent, that ordinary talent to an extraordinary amount of work. So if you have that, I think you will be successful. But then the element of success is that do you find peace and fulfillment? It's very different from achievement and accomplishment. Do you feel fulfilled? Then you are successful. No one can measure success for you. The outside measures of success, I think, extremely biased and skewed. So that those are that's what I see that, and I try to tell everyone. but and do a little bit of a work. Um, as a swimmer, I should quote Coach Bowman. He always says that, yeah, what did you see in Mike Phelps or all these? He coached them, and what did you see? He said, they just showed up and they did a little bit of a work every day. So I think if you do that, you'll be successful. But the measurement of success, I don't know. It's more of a philosophical conversation.
No, you're right. And there's external and internal measures, and that ties into motivation. What keeps you motivated and going every day?
um, so I feel the work, um, the souls that we touch, the lives that we save, and the people that I work with. It keeps me going. It's extremely pleasant. I really enjoy the team members, the environments that I work, both at Columbia and Morristown, and that's extremely rewarding. Also, the element of curiosity that I want to learn more. Now, I'm back. Still, again, I can't tell you how fortunate I was and am. Like now, Margaret is there, so there is for me something to learn, and that something new to learn and be better. It's it keeps me excited, And but in terms of like what personally and in terms of career, team building and program buildings, it became extremely exciting for me, and I didn't have that experience till I did it, and I found that it's very rewarding for me. Not easy, but uh, it needs a lot of human skills, and it needs, of course, technical skills, and you need to know your craft. But not that I know all of it, but again, with mentorship and etc. But I found that building very, very interesting and rewarding.
And then, Amir, maybe we have just the last few words about Dimitri. As you say, he was a great mentor to you and many other people. He's no longer with us, unfortunately. But any last words you would like to say about Dimitri?
Um, so you know, for me, Dimitri, I want. I know you asked one. What was Dimitri's legacy, right? And I think Maya Angelou said it the best. Um, the lives and the souls you touch. And I think no one knows that except us that work with him closely. Um, that he had, of course, he had a lot of protectors, right? People saw him on podium, on camera, and with his sarcasm and the way he was expressing a little bit of a Greek drama. I'm sure you're familiar with that. But behind that, the he was generous with his heart. He was truly generous, and the patients that he saved. Now, still, we get calls that, oh, we didn't know that. Unfortunately, he's not with us. And like an 18-year-old, I give you an example. It was an 18-year-old wrestler in Jersey, and I say this is not HIPAA because they interviewed the young man and it was published. And he arrested while he was practicing. He had hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. I was not on call or anything. He called, insisted, even though he had downtime because his pals, the kids, the high school kids, they did CPR on this young athlete. I was not convinced that he has brain function. That I said, Dimitri, push, and he was, him, they persistent. So we put him on ECMO. Guess what? He woke up. He came back to life, and we decannulated him, and that amount of affection Dimitri had for this young athlete, and he was connecting with him. And that man, the family, they made during that time they made one of these plastic bracelets. Dimitri had that to the very last minute. You know, he I have it in my office, but Dimitri was wearing that, the, blue plastic. So, he was generous with his time. He was generous with his heart. Um, Amount of, you know, behind the scene advocating for fellows to find the job that they deserve or trying to help them to land a good job. I'm sure he was calling you about the fellows every year to help them to find a job or this and that. Um, I'm not going to talk about his skills. I mean, who am I to judge? You and others been on this platform. They know him. They know his caliber. I want people to know that he, he loved art. Um, he loved Greek drama. So um, it's hard. Yeah. And he loved, the agency. Always in his office watching when I can go for the next vacation to Greece.
Absolutely. Well, again, he left, as you say, his legacy lives on in the people that he touched
And his
in
son,
New York and elsewhere.
Alkis, he's like Dimitri had deep passion whenever he was talking about him and how diverse and well-rounded this young man is. He's 18, right? But, you know, maybe it's in Greek genes. I don't know. Talk about philosophy and politics nonstop. But this young man is, I'm sure on daily basis is going to make him proud.
Wonderful. Well, Amir, thank you again. Appreciate spending the time with us. Congrats on the programs you've built in multiple places. Again, always a pleasure, and I'm sure many people who are lucky to have you as their mentor are going to do great things down the line as well. Thank you so much.
You're always very kind, and thank you so much for this platform and all you do for us during training and for everyone else out there.
Thank you for listening to the Sensei podcast.